So we are about a week away from the next expansion, so I'm just gonna take a look at what's rotating out in Dragonblade, and then yeah, we'll just look at the cards that we're losing from rotation. This will also serve as a test to see if I can maintain decent speech if I talk a lot for like an hour or so, and maybe if it goes well, then I might be able to go back to streaming again. But anyway, we're just gonna look at the new old card. So Dragonblade is of course the anime expansion based on Shadowverse Flame. So we are going to be losing all the anime archetypes. So let's take a look. Of course, we start with Forest first. So these are the cards from Dragonblade that Forest will be losing. Gerbera Bear and Floral Breeze basically come together, right? Like Floral Breeze comes out of Gerbera Bear. Floral Breeze sees play now, I believe, in Magachio. I'm not sure if all this run it. Gerbera Bear is of course just a Flower Breeze that can also have Storm, and it comes on legs. This card has, I think this card honestly has seen like pretty decent play throughout the entire lifetime, just because it's playing Castell. I can't remember if Fairy played it, but Magachio also plays it. It's a pretty solid card. It gives you a bounce, it can storm. It's 1 PP storm, it has synergy with Castell and all that, right? Floral Breeze also similarly, it's also a bounce, it heals you 1. Pretty decent card, not much to say about that. I guess Forest will be losing a bounce tool now, but I mean, consider where they're leaning, they seem to be, at least from the cards reviewed so far, they seem to be leaning towards a more control style. Maybe losing the healing on this might hurt a bit, but there's definitely worse cards that could be lost. Next, Free Spirit the Elf. No one really played this card, so yeah, no one cares about this. Mistletoe Squirrel was played for a while in Fairies, but then eventually it was just cut for not being that good. So yeah, okay card that has an enhanced 8 that can randomly get you lethal sometimes, right? Oh, this one. It randomly just summons you storms. So yeah, that's neat, I guess. Forest Merchant saw play in a bit in some like weird aggro decks. And that's about it, I think. Not much there. Slate is of course another part of the anime package for this class. This class anime package seems to be built around board lock into Cosmos Fang, which we'll talk about later, but Slate never really took off. It was mostly just there for the fanfare, which lets you play which basically lets you play Slate for free. You can play it with Cosmos Fang for a board, you can play it with Hozumi and with Nagachio to get your play count in 1 turn. It was played a bit in Hozumi and play a bit in Magachio as well, I think. But overall, not too much play. Oh, it was also played in Hostage Forest, I think. But I mean, that's a really fringe deck, so I'm not gonna go into much detail on that. Probably not the biggest loss ever, although this effect is pretty strong for control. But yeah, not a big deal. Super. It also loses Marione, which is gives you a 0-cost fairy. You could use it to like OTK on turn 5 with a Philly if you super high rolled this card, which you probably wouldn't. Other than that, it's a fairy generator. It was like okay, it wasn't played too much. It's just an okay card, I guess. Rose Deer played like occasionally, surprisingly. The accelerator that you draw a spell from your deck, which was cool, and then that's about it, honestly. Like, you don't really see this play in rotation. It's not super interesting or good or anything. This I don't think was played at all. Is this the... Wait, is this the same one that comes from Philly? I can't remember. Anyway, it's not right. Wait, is it? I think it might be the one that comes from Philly. Anyway, not important. Anyway, not really played, so yeah, I can skip this. And then of course we are losing Nobilis, which means that unless they release some huge support, Fairy is dead and buried, because Nobilis was such a powerful card. Every time fairies were relevant, it was because Nobilis existed. She made the Fiddy OTK possible. She made that fairy aggro deck that we had like a while ago playable as well, and now she's gone. So yeah, pretty a bit unfortunate to lose this, but then again, Forest still has Magachio. It still has they seem to be pushing a control archetype, which no base isn't super useful for anyway. So yeah, pretty valuable card, but in the state that Forest currently in, not a big deal. She's not even played right now anyway. We lose Benevolent Elf, which is a bit unfortunate considering they seem to be pushing control Forest, and Benevolent Elf seems like it will fit pretty well in there. A bit of a shame that she's gone, but I mean, it's fine, I guess. They're probably releasing better tools. Honestly, personally, I find this card super annoying. The Banish makes me want to puke. Yeah, it's Benevolent Elf, and also an enemy card. I don't know what this is. Never played like ever. And of course, we're losing Cosmos Fang, the star anime card. This is the one that the poster child for Forest for this expansion, Cosmos Fang. Unfortunately, never really saw play as her own archetype of like this board lock into the bounce to hit for a huge amount of damage on turn 7 kind of deck. She mostly saw play in Hozumi, where she was just used to summon out from the deck on turn like 5 and then bounce the entire board to hand just to heal like 1 billion health and then summon out like 5 billion with my else. So yeah, a very unfortunate card that wasn't like played much except for when it was abused in a pretty degenerate strategy. So that's what's Forest losing right now, honestly, besides Gabra Bear and Floral Bleeds. Maybe not much is lost here of importance. Most of these are easily replaceable or not played at all. So yeah, Forest not losing too much. So next, let's look at Sword. Sword is losing Morgenstern Maid along with the hero archetype. One of the anime archetypes that actually saw play at some point, just one time. For one expansion, this deck was meta, right? With the what's it called, Mars Sword. This deck was meta. Well, kind of meta, right? I mean, you only went like one copy of Valiant, and then it was mostly based around Mars. But yeah, for hero was meta for one expansion. One of the hero support cards, Morgenstern Maid. It's a 1/3 that damages itself on Fanfare, and it's a rush, so it's basically a 1/1 rush. Very time effective deal. AoE is like sometimes useful. Only really saw play in hero as well. I only really saw play in hero decks, not play anywhere else. Which is fine because that's probably what she was designed to do. So yeah, not a big deal to lose this one, I think. Soft Bandit has like some niche application for being a cheap Bane officer. You could rush it with the Despotic Pawn Maker, and that will help you clear some things. It could give you the spell, which it doesn't really do anything, I guess, but you can play with Opulent. It has like some use cases, but overall not a big deal to lose this one. We're not like crying over this or anything. And then we have Emerald Spear Knight. Very, very, very strong card. Basically evolves for a +3 attack instead of the usual +2 for 1 PP 5 damage, which is pretty solid. Every time you've played heroes, you would play Emerald because honestly it's one of the best cards in the hero archetype. So yeah, considering we are losing the archetype as a whole, it's not a big deal to lose Emerald in particular, but I mean, it's one less archetype we have to play with. So which is a shame, especially for people who really like heroes, I guess. Flame Soldier, of course, another hero card. This one's pretty solid actually. 2 cost 2/2 that had potential to deal 2 into a follower and to the leader was super strong. You really had to play around this kind of early game when Mars Hero Sword was meta. You had to play around this early game and not make a damage follow early, or else the Flame Soldier would just kill you. So yeah, once again, it's part of the hero archetype. Since we're losing the entire archetype, it's just part of it. We're not like super sad. It's not like gonna see any play like outside the hero archetype anyway. Next is Resplendent Knight. This was played in Commander Sword with the toilet, because she was a cheap commander that would put the toilet back in your deck. 2 cost 2/3 stats is pretty strong. Like, it's just like weirdly strong. Like, it's a 2 cost 2/3 stat, and then it will help you mulligan 1 card as well. Pretty solid card. Unfortunately, not really playable outside of Commander, so the toilet's gone. So this card, no one cares about this card anymore. It's currently seeing play in Crosscraft with this card, but I mean, that's not the intended use of this card. So yeah, no one cares about this one. Not sad to see it go. Spell Scourger, very solid effect, honestly. Fanfare, deal 2 damage to an enemy. Rally 7 2 times, Rally 15 do 3 times. Rally 15 is like fairly quick to reach right now, so she is a fair bit stronger than she ever been. The only problem is that early game you don't really want to play her because she's a 2 cost 1/1, and she, depending on your luck, she might not even help you answer your opponent's board. Not super valuable card. Rarely has like better payoffs to run than this, so it saw some play here and there, but overall not a big deal to lose this one. I don't think we're gonna be like missing Spell Scourger or anything. Can't say built to tutor Valiant Fencer, and then she tutors Barbros, but then she's just terrible, so even in those decks you don't really run this card. 3 cost 3/3 just to draw a random enhance is so bad for Sword, because Sword really wants to get that rally to going, which this doesn't do. One of the worst golds we have in the class right now, if I'm not wrong. So next is of course Opulent Strategist. This one is a pretty big hit, I think we all can agree. She saw play in literally every expansion, I believe. Except maybe no, she didn't. Actually, when Mars Hero Sword was the sword deck, then she wasn't played in that. But other than that, she's played in like every sword deck. So that's like 4 expansions out of 5 that she was played in. Obviously, a super ridiculous card. At rarely 10 you get so much utility. You get Evil Point Recovery, Healing. The necklace was useful for some setups. You would get the AoE for Void Clear, and then you could get this Dual Blade Flurry to get lethals if your opponent didn't answer your board, and then her effect to draw, heal, and board buff. Super strong. She evolves for free as well. She was very flexible card. You could evolve her manually and then play a spell in order to get the heal too if you only had 1 spell. Obviously super sad to see this one go. Probably one of the best cards in the class right now, so yeah, big shame to lose Opulent. Next is Mark Knight. Again, it's part of the hero archetype, so as long as the heroes are going, Mark Knight is like, the sadness of losing all the hero cards here is like all bundled into the archetype, not like as individual cards, right? So Valiant Fencer also the same. It's part of the hero archetype. Hero entry also same deal, right? These are all just the hero cards. Same shame to see them go as an archetype. Individually they don't really play very well outside of hero. So in terms of other archetypes besides hero, it's not a big deal to lose them. Then we have General Maximus. Maximus was hugely valuable in Sword for like 3 expansions ish, I think. Wait, no, we played it when it was released and it was super strong, and then we had Mars Hero Sword. So wait, we played this at release. This was the mini legendary, I believe. On release he was strong. We played him in Quick Blader Sword, and then we played him in Loot as well, in Asval, I believe. Yeah, I think Maximus was running Loot during Asval. And then we had Mars Hero Sword, so he wasn't played in that. And then after that was Rivenbrand. After that he just lost play. So this card was super strong for when it was playable, but then nowadays it's not super preferred anymore. It's like only good on turn 5, and like you sort of brick on it like before turn 5. This card is good on 1 turn in the entire game. So you don't really want like running this card like in your deck just on the hopes of being able to play that one copy in the one turn that it's good. So I think that's why Maximus was cut now. So I really like this card though, so it's a bit of a shame to see this one go. It's not super strong but very iconic card. A bit sad to see this one go, personally. And then we have Calculating Captain, garbage card, never played. Can just skip that. So overall, Sword loses one whole archetype with Hero Sword, which I personally was never really super attached to Hero Sword, but I know some people are. And then we lose Opulent, which is super unfortunate. One of the best cards in the class. So yeah, we'll have to see. We do see some like rally support coming in the new expansion, so I'm a bit worried that without Opulent, rally is just not going to be good enough unless they release something super strong to go with rally. But that's the discussion for when the new cards come out, so let's move on to the next class. Next will be Rune, and of course Rune's anime archetype. I'll just drink some water there. Rune's anime archetype is of course Chess. Chess did see some play competitively, but it was never like super top meta or anything. But it's like always, it's been a decent level of power for a long while, I think, but never managed to break into the top. So let's go through what Rune loses. So we have Card Seer, which was played in chess early when you didn't have very many options for chess cards. And then Card Seer fell out of favor instantly the moment we got better cards, and it's not really played anymore. Milady, of course, pretty powerful chess enabler, summons 3 pawns. I should probably just cover the whole chess archetype as a whole, because it's like a similar situation with the hero, where once the whole archetype rotates out with king anyway, so it's like you don't really play these like outside of chess. The ones that are worth noting is Magical Strategy, which of course sees play even outside of chess decks just for being 2 PP draw card that also helps you answer board a little bit with the pawn. And then Knights has like some very niche application in spell boost like at some point, but not much. It's also an enabler for what's it called, the Zerael, but that's not super important either. So yeah, chess, shame to see it go. I'm honestly a bit sick of playing the deck though, cause played it quite a bit like early on, and then I got bored of it, so I stopped playing it. So yeah, pretty solid deck after it got like check and stuff. When it was first released in CDB, it wasn't super good and it was pretty bad. It got a lot better next expansion though. So yeah, that's the chess archetype. And then we lose Astral Sword, which is pretty valuable in dirt for a lot of things. She's very solid 2 PP follower to play early. She would help you pay 1 dirt for get your 1 dirt spent for free basically with her telescope. And then late game she helped you survive by giving your opponents -2 -0 on their followers. So dirt takes a pretty big hit with Astral Sword. I think it's not like the worst loss ever, but it is a fairly big loss in my opinion. So we're gonna have to see if Dirt can survive losing her. Equisphere was played in some spell boost decks, some like weird 7 Forces OTK decks, but never really saw any like major play or anything as a just board removal. There's just better things to be running in the deck. It doesn't even draw anything, right? And we have Maltina. Obviously spell boost is gonna feel this one pretty hard. Maltina is super strong. It's like a Angel's Blessing that spell boosts after you play it instead of when you play it. Has a lot more utility. She can be played for 1 PP. She can help you answer board. She can recover evil points. She can even help you banish enemy followers. Very solid card, just like an engine card that you put in your deck. But we're gonna lose her, so pretty sad. Unfortunate for spell boost, we just got new support of Air too, and we're already losing some pretty key cards for spell boost. And then next is a card slinger. This card has like some I mean it's spell boost 3 times. It has some like weird little bit of interaction maybe in spell boost, but not really. It's super questionable whether this card is at all good. Probably not a big deal to lose this one. There's definitely better things you can be running in your spell boost deck. And then we lose Mari. Another very big loss for spell boost. Mari was a super strong card. She was a spell boost card, helped you draw your spell boost followers. I mean not followers, help you draw your other spell boost payoffs. And then she would also help have last was the spell boost. Pretty big loss here. Mirrored summoning is mostly a meme. It was used in spell boost with Kuon. You could duplicate the Shikigami with this. And then other than that, you would you could play some like meme Golem Lord deck where you use Mirrored Summoning to summon another Golem Lord if you want. But yeah, nothing super major to lose here. Not a big deal for this card to be gone, I don't think. At 4 PB, it's just a bit too heavy. Phantasmal Box, this card was like never played ever. I don't think anyone really cares about this card, so yeah, I can just ignore this one and move on. Knight and the chest. So overall, Rune loses some pretty big cards right now. It loses some dirt support, it loses the entire chest archetype, it loses a lot of spell boost support. Going into the next expansion, dirt, I'm questioning if dirt is playable without Astral Sword. Honestly, I feel like without Astral Sword it might not be able to keep itself alive anymore. Of course you could still high roll like Golden Lord and all that stuff, but it's definitely a bit weaker without Astral Sword there to support the early game with her spending dirt for free. Maybe dirt's still playable, we'll have to see. Going in the next expansion, we are getting so far we've seen trade support, which I'm guessing is meant for Mysteria, so Mysteria might become the meta. In which case, I don't think any of these really fit with Mysteria besides Magical Strategy, just as a it's also a trade card, so it's a bit of an unfortunate loss to lose Magical Strategy. I think it would actually have been good in the Mysteria deck, but it's gone, so yeah. Then we lose Spell Boost even though we just got Air, so Air is like kind of useless now, I guess, so yeah. Medium losses, no like major win conditions besides the entire chess archetype is lost here. But some key decks lose support, so we'll have to see if how Rune is doing next expansion, I guess. Next will be Dragon after I drink a bit more water. So, Dragon CDB setup is actually a super efficient setup, honestly. It loses 2 archetypes. So it loses Arm with all the Arm support here, which was like super ass when it first came out because we only had Levitate attack form. And then it rolls to a meta aggro deck after we got Blast form and more support with the Swiftblade Dragonute, I believe. And then now it's once again one of those early meta hunters where you play early game to aggro your opponent. I mean, not early game, you play early in the expansion, the aggro would just stomp your opponents while they're trying to figure out their new cards. And then it would fall off later in the expansion, and that's basically what Armed is right now. Not a big deal to lose this one in my opinion, I don't think. Oh, this was Arm support, right? The other support obviously that this set loses is Lumior. Discard Dragon. Discard Dragon is literally dead now without Lumior. And this deck was hell when it first released. I think if you're playing, you remembered the moment Lumior was released in the mini. Yeah, the moment she was released in the mini, the meta went to hell, and it was basically a 2-deck meta with Discard and Dirt dominating the entire thing, with other decks like having like next to no way to get their head, poke their head in the meta, just because the other two, Dirt and this card was so dominating. So yeah, that's discard dragon. We are thankfully, I think a lot of people are probably sick and tired of Lumior and her this. So yeah, we won't have to deal with that anymore on rotation. We're losing Argente, Dragonese Maya, All-Guide Worm, all of these discard supports that we don't really care about as long as this card as a whole is gone. Maybe they can finally make a different deck. Oh, but then buff loses nothing notably. Yeah, important to note here, buff loses literally absolutely nothing. So we might continue to see that. Oh, I forgot to mention for when we're talking about sword, right? Currently sword is loot, and loot loses opulent and nothing else. Opulent is a pretty big hit, but I think it can still survive without opulent. It depends on how the new meta decks are. Notably, losing opulent will hit loot's late game a lot, and its ability to survive in the late game. So we'll have to see how loot adapts to that. So anyway, back to dragon. We are losing this card. We're losing armed. Buff loses nothing, so you can still continue to play buff if you want. We also lose Lizardback Cavalier, which I don't think anyone cares about, and there's Drakewood. He is technically a ramp, but he's mostly there. I mean, he is ramp payoff. We are getting like we still seem to be getting ramp dragon support, so he might be a bit of a shame to lose. But then again, he's not even 7 cost, which the new ramp support seems to be focusing on. So maybe we don't really give a shit that much. I mean, he was like what 7 PP 10 damage on turn when you had 10 play points. Can sometimes run away with games, but overall pretty replaceable effect, I think. Not a super big deal to lose this one. So yeah, that's Dragon's losses. It loses 2 entire archetypes, but in terms of the meta currently, nothing really important lost. I think nothing lost at all actually. So next we're gonna look at Shadow. So Shadow's anime archetype was Masquerade Ghost, and of course it did see meta play for one expansion, I think. It was meta. And now it's like sort of like a mid deck. It's like an aggro deck that just hunts people who aren't prepared, and you just draw Masquerade Ghost or die. So yeah, let's look at what we're losing with Mischievous Zombie. I don't think it was ever played even in Ghost. Maybe like a little bit here and there just as a tech card for dealing with defense mode or something, but I don't think this card was ever really played. Grave Robber wasn't really played either. Even in Barrel Ride, she's a bit difficult to get to play like in a useful manner. Bonebreaker Blazeman was played, I think, in Ghost maybe as a one-off early on, just because if you enhance him for 7, you could get like 7 damage out of it, and then maybe help you clean up games. Bacchus was like okay. Recently the buff made it like a lot better, but then we're also losing it now, so and it didn't really get a chance to shine in the end even though it got buffed. So yeah, a bit of a shame with Bacchus, but Necro Carnivore, you were supposed to use this to reanimate Masquerade Ghost on Enhance 6, and then it would summon a ghost for you, and then early game, honestly early game just summoning a zombie and a ghost is like pretty value stats for cost, but not really played even in Ghost, I don't think. I tried to jam it in Ghost at the start, but in the end it wasn't really played there. There's just better things to do. Stygian Pizziola, I'm a big fan of this card. I just like the concept that she's just frying pizza. Sorry, just making pizza in the river of hell, but you know. And then when she comes into play, not fanfare, when she comes into play, restore 2. Last words, restore 2. So she's like a reanimate support, where you will reanimate 3 and then she will heal you every time she came out, and then when she dies she will heal you again. It was like supposed to like give you a lot of health, but then again it wasn't really played because it didn't really fit into any decks, especially at 3 cost. Most reanimates are at 2 right around now. Oh, we're losing Hugin and Rune. Okay, this is actually pretty big. Obviously, Last Words relied heavily on Hugin and Rune as their draw source early on because, I mean, it's 3 costs, you draw 2 cards. It's like a Angel's Blessing, kind of. It's also 2 Last Words for the price of 1 follower. And then when it got the rush, it would become much more useful. They do seem to be pushing Last Words next expansion, so losing Hugin and Moon is a bit of a shame here, but not. I mean, it's fairly replaceable, right? Like, it's just Last Words and draw. It's not like some super unique effect. They could probably just print more support to replace it. It's not the end of the world. Trick Dillahan, never really play even in Ghost. Its effect is like okay, it's nothing too impressive. The Ship of Morning Souls, very brutal card in Ghost. 4 cost 3/1 and summons out 3 ghosts. You could use this on your on the turn Masquerade summons itself back, or you could use it, set it up the turn before. If you don't think your opponent is able to fully clear all the ghosts coming out of it, you could just play it on turn 4 but not trade it off. And then your opponent will have to summon the ghosts. I mean, deal with the ghosts that it summons, or else you could play Masquerade next turn and turn them all into those big 4/4 wards, which is a very nasty play. So yeah, pretty strong card, but as long as we're losing Masquerade Ghost, this card probably won't see any more use anyway, so it's not a big deal. That's how sees play in Unlimited, but I don't think it ever got to shine in rotation. Personally, I really like the design of this card. I think it's cool. It's just not really very good, so unfortunate for that. I like its effect. It's just not powerful enough to be playable in the current game, especially when there's no dedicated necromancy archetype. So yeah, it doesn't have like any last word support or anything, so not super strong. And now of course we lose Masquerade Ghost. Questionable when it was first released, but then it quickly shot up and we concede, and it saw meta play for a good while. It summons very annoying boards. It deals a lot of face damage, so you could play in the aggro deck that would just end the game on turn 5, 6, 7, around there. You would end the game. It's a very strong card, so yeah. Again, they seem to be pushing Last Words, so maybe not as unfortunate to lose Masquerade now that they are probably not supporting Ghost anymore. Next is Tochella, Reanimate support. She never saw play like ever, which is a shame because she has a pretty cool effect where she gives stuff War and Storm and all that jazz, but yeah, never really saw play, so she will be rotating out. Oh, this pack was pretty weak for Shadow. We got like one decent archetype that only became meta later on. And then, we lose the Hydra. Okay, the Hydra is worth talking about, alright. Who would have thought that this unassuming 7 cost silver would be one of the bigger losses in this expansion. So Hydra has quite a bit of history with it. At the start, people memed it with Charon and used it. So you would like summon the Hydra, use Charon to summon the Hydra. The Hydra would die, but then Necromancy would revive it back, and then your opponent would have to answer that, or else they would just die because you would buff Hydra. And that was back when we still had that spell that lets things ignore wards, so you could just send this face next turn and kill your opponent with it. And then after that it fell off a bit, and then you could play in Soul Taker, and in Soul Taker you would just summon out Hydra and this would just answer your opponent's entire board. And then after that, now in Fusion Fusion Shadow, it's also played to summon out with your Soul Heart's Radiance. I think the spell is called Heart's Radiance, and then even though it gets destroyed, it will just summon itself back with the Necromancy anyway. So yeah, actually saw like, obviously it was never meta or anything, but it saw like decent play in like Shadow like the whole time, I feel like, just as like a meme deck to try out. So overall, Shadow loses Hugin and Moonin. If we're thinking about the going towards the next expansion. Huge and Rune is probably the only like notable loss here. Other than that, the rest is not super important. We lose Ghost, but then Ghost isn't super strong now anyway, and Shadow as a whole just isn't super strong now anyway, so we'll see if Dark Alice can change that with her Last Words deck. So next we're going with Blood, after I once again drink some water. So Blood is kind of cheating with the anime archetype, because their anime archetype is just Wrath. So we will see what they lose. So they lose Infernal Orchestration, not really played like in rotation. I think it was played in what's it called, in Unlimited, in Handless maybe. Maybe, but yeah, not really played now, so not a big deal. Harpy was played when Vengeance was a deck, but now it's not anymore, so we don't really care about that. Trombone Devil wasn't really played any time at all. And then Maestro, staple in every Wrath deck since it has been released. Very, very powerful effect. 2 ping draws 2 for 2 PP, and it can even help you activate Gyaradeath with its delayed ping on the last words. This card could sometimes also kill you with the last words, so there was that. Gives you Infernal Orchestration, which wasn't like negligible in terms of what it could do. It draws you a card, it can buff your followers, give your followers Rash. Pretty solid, very solid card. Big loss here for Blood, assuming they're continuing to play Wrath, which they might not be, because we've seen like 1 Blood card now, and I still have no idea what Blood is doing next expansion, so we'll have to see for that. And then we have Tavali, big loss for Evo, of course. Very, very valuable card in Evo. This card could draw you cards, it could deal damage to the leader, it heals your own leader. Big loss for Evo. I think probably not like it doesn't kill the deck completely, but it definitely makes the deck struggle more with fighting damage as well as healing. So next is Demon Blade Fiend. I don't know if this card was ever played. I think it's maybe like a little bit here and there once or twice. It would just give you Vengeance, and this thing would, I don't know, it gives your allied forwards +1/+0, I guess. It wasn't really played for anything, so yeah, I wouldn't know. Demonium was played in Wrath at the start, and it was a wild thing where you just play it on 3, and it would have like 5 health, and if your opponent couldn't answer it, this thing would just activate Wrath on its own. That was what it had going for it, but there's just absolutely no space or reason to run it in Wrath anymore now, so yeah, we don't really care about this much. Malicious Blader was played early on in Evo, but now Evo doesn't run it, no decks run it, so probably not a big deal to lose this one either. I doubt anyone's gonna be missing Malicious Blader. Besides the art is pretty nice. I'm a big fan of this art actually. I think she looks pretty nice in this art, but not very good, so I mean, in terms of gameplay wise, she's probably not a big loss. Lunel was played in Wrath early on, as well as in Asvault. Now I forgot she even existed for a while, but there's definitely much better payoffs to be playing in Wrath right now than her. Howling Demon, staple in every Wrath deck since his release. Very strong card. It's like a mini Drazael, even though Howling Demon came first, right? I think Howling Demon became like the poster child for AoE 5 damage, heal your leader 5 damage. And then it would storm for 5 damage as well, so quickly, like, this represented a potential change of 10 between you and your opponent's leader's defenses, so it's a very strong card, and it also board clears as well. You would really have to plan around playing around this card with your followers, yeah, in order to not get rolled by Howling Demons. Yeah, very strong card. If assuming Wrath is still being played, then we are of course very sad to see this one go. It's a super strong card. Fierce Wolf only playing Pazuzu. We can skip this one since Pazuzu is also gone. Obviously never meta, but Pazuzu was always there as a meme deck. And what a meme it is, it's like the sort of gambling deck where you would just, on turn 6 you would play this and then try to chain Pazuzus to kill your opponent. And then sometimes you would OTK people and it was cool, but sometimes this card is, otherwise this card is just complete ass. So yeah, in terms of memes, it's a bit of a shame to see this one go, but in terms of like actually playing the game, probably not really a big deal for this one. And next we have Fashionable Fiend. Maybe playable with Vania like in the past, but I don't think this was ever really played, so we can just skip this one. So yeah, overall, some losses for Evil. So Blood has like 2 decks. He has Evil and has Wrath, and this set represents some pretty big losses for both of those decks. So we'll have to. I think Blood is gonna be pretty reliant on what they get next expansion to carry them, because right now it loses like a lot of stuff. And then next we have Haven. Obviously we had this whole Diamond Master Crystallized archetype in this expansion, which was actually really strong. I can't remember, it was, I don't know, it wasn't strong like on release, but then someone found like probably the good way to play this deck, and suddenly it exploded in popularity and was super strong for like a few expansions here and there. Now obviously it's not really played, and we'll get to that later when we talk about the cards. Actually, okay, let's talk about the yeah. So Wingy, wait, now that I think about it, the only anime archetype that didn't like see like proper play is Forest, right? The rest of them at least saw play at some point, but Forest, Cosmos Fang was just not it. Anyway, so Wingy, the Bird of Death, it got buffed. It used to cost 2, I believe. It got buffed to cost 1, and it became a complete menace. the juxtaposition of this face versus the horrors that Wingy committed in Crystallized Haven is like became a meme. Anyway, super strong Crystallized Haven. You would just randomly give things Storm and Ward, and then they would hit your face for 1 billion damage, and then of course the Shrine would buff them. In the context of the Crystallized Haven, a huge card. But then since Crystallized Haven as a whole is not really playable right now, it's not really playing any current Haven deck, so probably not a big deal to see Wingy go. Same deal for Shrine. Not really playing any current deck. Was a menace in heal. This card was also buffed, I believe. It used to be destroyed instead of banished, and then it used to be able to be destroyed by effects. So when you played Skullfane, the Shrine would just get destroyed, so they changed that. And then, of course, the effect to give +1/+3 made all your followers strong and sticky, which is super annoying for when Crystallized was playable. Obviously now Crystallized not playable, so same deal as Wingy. In the context of current Haven, modern Haven, it's not a big deal. Holy Armored Cheetah was basically a meme, no one cares about this card. Sapphire Princess, another piece of Crystallized Haven, once again, solid card in the deck. Help you draw, help you activate Diamond Master early on to tide you over to the OTK turns. So, Diamond Master, obviously a strong card for very ridiculous sounding effect. It just destroyed all your opponent's followers for like free, basically free, and it will help you give Storm and Ward to things. So like with your Wingies, Wingy only allows you to give it to followers with 2 or less attack, but Diamond Master allows you to pop it over to a certain non 2 attack follower named Skullfane, and that was your OTK back when that was the thing, right? Balance Blessing, I think it was meant to be played with Crystallized because Jewel Shrine gives your followers so much health, but then it, other than like seeing a little bit of tech play here and there, not really played for anything. Prayer Urn, probably the only relevant card that Modern Haven is losing, but even then, people aren't actually playing the Urn that much right now. I think modern heal lists, the most recent heal lists, don't even run this Urn anymore. Maybe some of them do. But yeah, super. The closest thing Heal Haven is feeling to a loss, and it's not much at all. Tower Grace of Taurus wasn't really played at all, except for like a meme OTK deck with Garuda, which yeah, so not a big deal to lose the Grace of Taurus here. If you have Muse Jester, big in Crystallize, of course. You could set it up so that it would coincide, so that the amulet would pop at during your lethal turns, which you could use to set up complicated lethals. Other than that, it helped you tide over your early game, it helped you Crystallize. Very solid card while it was still playable. And then Emerald Maiden, also very solid card for Crystallize. Just 1 PV Crystallize. You don't really play for fanfare a lot, but it crystallized and it drew you cards, and that was basically it. Muse Chef, I think it was meant to be played with the amulet deck, but it wasn't ever really played. Is that a tail holding a knife? I never really looked at the art. What the hell is going on here? Oh well. Holding Lightning Bird, another card that was huge in Crystallize. And it's also played now like in amulet decks, which I guess for an amulet deck it's a big loss, but I don't really know what Haven's doing next expansion. I mean, they always have Heal Haven, which loses nothing, so worst case they can always play that, right? Astolfo, once again, it's very strong card in Crystallize, as well as a very valuable card in modern amulet lists, and we are losing it, so amulet's gonna have to do something, get something pretty solid to make up for the loss of these two very strong cards. So in terms of meta play, Haven loses absolutely nothing. Heal Haven is basically untouched, and they can continue to play it for another expansion. Amulet loses a bunch of cool stuff. Crystallize was already dead the moment Skullfang rotated out anyway. So that's it for Haven. And now we look at Portal. So Portal didn't have an anime counterpart, so they didn't get anime cards, unfortunately for them. Instead they got good cards, so yeah, let's look at them. First we have Macwing Attendant, not played at all even in artifact decks, I don't think. Maybe early on, but then Mystic Artifact is a bit heavy as a token. Sweeper Doll, the savior of evil Portal when that was playable when that was played last expansion. Never saw play anywhere else. Maybe I can't remember it was played in Puppet, but I don't think it was played in Puppet. Yeah, so not a big deal. Puppet Assemble, pretty solid general card for Cutthroat and Puppet and other like general decks, but currently Portal has like what, Machina, and that's it. Machina's like Portal's only playable deck, so I guess it seems like they're pushing artifacts next expansion, so we probably don't care that we're losing Puppet Assemble, even though it's a pretty solid card, and I personally think it's pretty solid. Yeah. Arc, very annoying card. I really don't like this card. I hate it so much. It's so annoying. They would just like dump it out on turn 2, and then it would just start doing random shit. The max leader defense thing is so annoying, and of course when they would have more evil points, it activates all, which makes them even more annoying. But this card is so like tilting when your opponent doesn't have more evil points than you, but they just get the max HP anyway, and then you can't kill them anymore. It's so annoying. So very happy to see Arc go. Animal Puppeteer, probably the only actual loss for Machina, I believe, in this expansion, yep. So probably not a big deal to lose this one. Not all Machina lists even run this anymore. Um, and it doesn't really have any play anywhere else, so yeah, not a big deal. Vermidea, now this card, when this card was first released, oh my god, this card was such a menace. We had, in CDB, Portal was the top deck for a good while. At first it was Artifact was so disgustingly broken, and Vermidea was a fairly big contributor to how broken it was, and then Artifact got nerfed, but then Portal became the top deck, and also Puppet became the top deck, and even Puppet played Vermidea just cause how ridiculously strong this card was. I mean, it just summons the Key Niche on turn 3, that's like 3-5 of stats with Rush and Drain on turn 3. And it also help you bury artifacts, which would accelerate your 6 different names super quickly. And then late game it gave buffs, so yeah, it was a very solid card that was useful like throughout the entire game, when Artifact was still playable, but now it's not. And they are supporting it next expansion though, so hopefully that will help it become a strong deck again. And we're losing Vermidea, so in the context of what the direction of the current Artifact decks, they seem to be promoting like shuffling stuff back into your deck, so maybe Vermidea isn't super valuable anymore in the deck, and they do have more healing now, so maybe not a super big loss to lose Vermidea here, even though Vermidea does have a history of being a very strong card. New discovery, I mean, it summons puppet artifacts, but it's really too heavy to be like playable in any artifact deck, so mostly in Cutthroat. Even Cutthroat doesn't play this anymore. This card was mostly played as an OTK meme, I believe. Was it? Is it this card? No, it was. Yeah, it was this card. This card was played as an OT meme in the Goliath OTK Machina deck, but that deck doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, no one cares about this card, I don't think. Although playing live form, this card was a absolute monstrosity in, what's it called? In the no, not this one. The one that summons it. This one, Overriding Abomination. The one that's, this card is like not really played, I don't think. I mean, it banishes a follower. It's annoying, but not really played. Zerg, pretty solid artifact card, honestly. It helps you cycle, it destroys one and heals. Assuming artifact becomes like good again, I think this card is a fairly unfortunate loss for the artifact deck. But I mean, they are getting a lot of new tools, so they probably can make up for it. Overriding Abomination, as I was saying earlier, super annoying in the Calamity deck when that was the thing, and then Calamity rotated out and this card stopped being played like immediately because it's not really playable anywhere else. Super annoying card that just summons banishers. Remember, this card costs 5 and this costs 6. And this summons 2 of them, and this card has more stats, and this card does even more if you trigger the effects. It gives, it gains Storm. That's insanity. Yeah, so next is Dandy Marionette. I think it was played like maybe a little bit here and there as like an additional finisher for puppets. After Lishana rotated out. But I don't think anyone really cares that this card is gone. Not really artifact support anyway. And then we have Absolute Chastity. This card was another monstrosity in Puppet Portal at the start. It had to be nerfed. It used to cost 10, I believe, then got nerfed to 14 just because Puppet could get this thing out so absurdly fast and it would just refill their hand. And it would present you a super fat ward. They would like play this alongside Orcus, and it was just the most miserable thing ever to deal with. So nowadays not really played anything just cause no modern Portal deck can take advantage of it. But yeah, I don't think Artifact will even want this card anyway, even if they could play it next expansion. So overall, Portal loses Arc, which has a lot of flexibility in usage. It loses Vermidea for its artifact. Zerk is also a bit unfortunate for artifact. Animal Puppeteer is like immediate, it is a loss for Machina, although maybe not a super big one. And then Puppet Assemble is just a generally solid card. Sweeper Doll, the last piece. Yeah, after Sweeper Doll is gone, and Evo is just not playable anymore, I don't think. So yeah, Portal, in terms of its current playable deck, which is Machina, it doesn't actually lose anything much. And then in terms of artifact, it loses some decent cards, but they're not they're not like exactly unreplaceable cards or anything. So we might be able to see Portal still remain strong, or not remain strong. We might be able to see Portal pop off next expansion, depending on what the new stuff is. So next we are looking at the neutrals. Oh, I actually don't have an okay, then that's great. So let's go to neutral cards. Garroel, first card. This card was nerfed. It used to be able to reduce any neutral card by 2, but then it got nerfed because of Hozumi abusing the hell out of this card. I don't think it's really played for anything. Honestly, neutral sword and definitely not neutral shadow, but maybe neutral sword might have been able to play this, depending on what they release. But yeah, not a big deal to lose this one, I don't think. Age of Adjudication. I don't think any deck played this card, so yeah, we can just skip that probably. Like maybe if you were like really high, you could play this in Cutthroat, but probably not. I mean, it is like 5 damage, so maybe it's like it was solid in like early Cutthroat, but Modern Construct just has better cards to run. Tellurian Painter, give Bane. This card's job was to give Rush to Infinite Flame Dragon for an OTK, and that was it, I believe. I believe the OTK was what you gave Infinite Flame Rush, and then you stick Piercing Roar on it, and it would just deal 20 damage. But obviously that's not a thing now, so this card immediately became unplayed. Next we go to Freya, which honestly I think is a pretty massive loss for this deck. I mean, pretty massive loss. Honestly, Freya has a lot of use case in a lot of decks, just as a trade searcher. Magachio especially is going to feel the loss of Freya. But what I was thinking was that actually Freya seemed really strong to play in neutral Sword next expansion, as because as you know, Sword has like next to no draw, so this would have been a solid card you could play and help you draw, and it even gets to be played for 1 play point late game. Not late game, if you have more evil points. So I thought this would be solid in evil neutral Sword, but unfortunately we are losing Freya here, so pretty big loss. Probably one of the biggest rotations of the whole expansion, honestly. So Greater Will. This card was played on and off. It's like a pretty useful card. You just need to draw. It got nerfed. It used to be able to work on leaders as well. Now it doesn't anymore. So now you actually need a follower on board to play this card, which made it a bit worse. So not played as much anymore, but still a pretty solid card. Well, is it solid? Maybe not really. It's not really played now, right? So probably not a big deal to lose this one. It's pretty replaceable. Legend Pathfinder, never saw any serious play. I don't think you would maybe play it with the toilet, the fortress, the commander sword fortress thing. That was about it. So yeah, I don't think it's really a big deal to lose. How you could play with the Hydra as well, but again, not a big deal. Skewering Snare is just a power creep of what is it called? Death's Dance, I think the card was called. The very, very old card. It's just power creep. It destroys a follower, deals 2 damage to the leader. It's not really played now for anything, because it's pretty useless. You'd rather be playing cards that contribute to your strategy instead of these like weird removal cards. Uranus was nerfed. Oh my god, so many cards here were nerfed. This was nerfed. This was nerfed. This was nerfed. And this was nerfed as well. So Uranus used to cost 3, now it costs 4. When it cost 3, it was very strong in the various decks. Nowadays, basically only discard Dragon and basically only discard Dragon is able to play Uranus. Maybe Spell Boost if you really cross your eyes. But I was thinking that with the trade support with Ginger next expansion, if Sephi becomes good, Uranus might have been worth running in it. But unfortunately, Uranus has been rotated out, so yeah. I don't think it's like a super huge loss for any deck or anything. I don't think any deck cares that much about Uranus. So yeah, not a big deal. Rhino Man was a card. It's kind of a menace, like in Take 2 sometimes, where it would just be a big ass follower you can like answer because you can't attack it. But yeah. And finally we have Olivia Sylvia. Olivia Sylvia, very, 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 very huge loss from this expansion, I think. Another one of the biggest losses. Super, super staple card in any deck that could afford to play and wanted to run a mid to long game, just because it's so strong. It recovers all your evolution points. It's a ward, it's a board clear, and it costs so little after you spend your evil points and evolve it. It just like, it's such a strong card. Saw play in like not every expansion, but I think almost every expansion Olivia Silva saw play in. So yeah, pretty big loss for this. Going into next expansion, some decks are getting control decks, notably Forest, and they are losing their only source of PP recovery. So we have to see how Cygames wants to support that part of Forest. And that's it for the rotating cards for this expansion. Overall, not super huge losses for most classes. Some classes loses pretty valuable cards, but nothing super like huge or anything. So we can look forward to the next expansion probably being probably higher power than, no, maybe not higher power, but we can look forward to the next expansion not being like super low power or anything, considering it doesn't lose any super major players here, besides some cards of course being super strong cards like this. But overall, on average, not the worst rotation ever. So yeah, that's it for this one. I've been talking for like an hour, I think, so yeah, it's about time for me to stop. I'm not gonna edit this cause there's nothing to edit here, so I'm just gonna vomit this out. So yeah, thanks for watching if you watched the whole thing for some reason, if you are like insane or something, and see you next time.